keynote you are about to hear, the title is Fiat, the System versus Bitcoin, the Tool. Please welcome Rigel Walshe. Come on, come on, come on.
Thank you. Screen. Boom. There we go. Right, so my name is Rigel Walshe, and my talk is called Fiat, the System versus Bitcoin, the Tool. And I want to start off the talk today on something which is the latest hot, sexy development in the Bitcoin world, and that is the Bitcoin ETFs that were approved earlier in this year. And as far as I was able to tell, the last I looked, something along the lines of 877,000 Bitcoins have flowed into these financial instruments since they were launched on the 10th of January this year. And look, I know there's some solid arguments about why this is a good thing, about how it's the next essential tool to drive Bitcoin's price to the next level, that it's like a Trojan horse of Bitcoin in the traditional financial system. But I'd like to see a show of hands of you guys out there who thinks that this amount of Bitcoin, almost 1 million, moving into these things, these legacy financial instruments, which are custodial, is a bad thing. I'm one of these people too. I think self-custody is one of the most important things that makes Bitcoin Bitcoin. And one of the best things that we can do is people that have been around a bit longer for new people is to show them how to self-custody for their benefit, but also for ours in the long term. But if you take these charts here I pulled from Glassnode, is like a very, very, very rough way to give us some idea of what is happening with self-sovereign Bitcoin activity over the same period since the ETFs were launched. What we can see is things are pretty static, or even there's a slight downtrend here. And if you zoom out to the all-time chart, where we are right now, which you would consider to be probably a bull market or the start of a bull market, things certainly aren't picking up. We've had 1 million Bitcoins worth of financial value flow into the system, but if you look at the on-chain metrics, things aren't particularly picking up in terms of adoption there, right? So, I don't think it's early days, but I don't think it's impossible for us to eventually end up in a world where the majority of Bitcoin is held in a system like this. And I think for me personally, I would consider that to be a failure of Bitcoin. So, Bitcoin's been around about 15 years. Adoption and price and things are up. More and more people are coming into Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin is winning like this, how can we be losing in this kind of sense here? Well, I think it comes down to the way that we onboard new people into our ecosystem, into our wallets, our businesses, even our social ecosystem. And what we do is we try and relate Bitcoin to something that they understand, that's familiar, right? We try and speak to their understanding and their culture about what technology is. And I think that's at the root of a lot of the problems that I'm talking about today. Because technology is something that we use to shift away from what's natural. The course of human history is plotted by the ways that we've used technology to shift and shape the world in our own image in ways that suit us. And our embrace and use of technology is what separates us from all the other animals. It's what makes us fundamentally human. But something happened a couple of 100 years ago that changed our relationship with technology, and that was the Industrial Revolution. And that was a revolution in more ways than one. Of course, there's a revolution in the way that it changed our ability to produce things at scale and make stuff. But there was also a social revolution that came with the Industrial Revolution. And that was, up until that point, the majority of the way that we made stuff was individuals or small groups of individuals working together to produce things for themselves or for their immediate kind of community or family group or whatever it might have been. And of course, the Industrial Age or the Industrial Revolution introduced this idea of specialization, right? You're working on one small part of a process, often without really understanding the parts that come before or after you, or even the product that you are making in the end. And we did this in the name of being able to produce more things and produce things at scale, but it came at a cost of our isolation and atomization. We no longer understand the tools that we are wielding and the things that we are making. We're just automations or machines and part of a process. And we fast forward to the world we live in today, this philosophy has only been amplified and magnified to a much greater level. The world that we exist in today it's impossible to live our life as we understand it without going through these applications, these technologies, being mediated through these things. The world that we exist in today could not function, we could not live the way that we do without the assistance of computers and the internet. And so, what this means is it's the natural evolution of this trend of trying to automate away more things, understand less about how they are built, and more focus on the outputs that they create. And so this philosophy has kind of created an arms race, right? Where we give away more and more of our decisions and our ability to make our own choices to these machines and these applications that make them for us. And it becomes an arms race to do that, to do more and more to keep up with everyone else. And the world we live in today, living without these things is almost impossible, right? Without Tinder, it's very difficult to find an intimate partner. Without Twitter, no one cares about your opinion or even knows that it exists. Without Coinbase, it's much too hard for you to figure out this new Bitcoin thing and how it works and how you get in there, right? So, we start to have this philosophy in this way. It shifts our way of viewing things that we're after to just focusing on the outputs that we get and being as efficient as possible. And we start to see what is a desirable technology. What we want from our technologies is these things where, again, we can give away more and more of our autonomy and our decision-making to these things which will make decisions for us. They automate that away. What we really want from our technologies are things that are like instruction manuals or recipes, right? Where they tell us what to do. We follow the steps, and we get a predictable result and outcome at the end. But if all you ever do is learn to follow someone else's recipes, well, you miss out on the whole value of learning how to cook, right? All you can ever do is follow what someone else tells you to put in your food, but you never learn to experiment, you never learn to change and adjust things, and the skill of making things the way that you like, that serves your needs and your particular dietary requirements or preferences. You're never able to make food that's designed for you. You're never able to make dishes that you can share with other people that express who you are and do that, right? And the same attitude is reflected in the technologies that we have today. We're limited more and more to the options that these applications and these tech companies provide to us, right? That we're limited to these algorithms that we had no say in designing, no choice in what we give away for their benefits. And our financial system is the same because money is a technology, one of our oldest technologies, but it is a technology. And the financial system we have today is born of the same philosophy and the same attitude, right? Where more and more of our autonomy is given away to this government currency which limits the options that we can use and says this is the only money that you can use. To governments intervening in the financial market to fix problems that have arisen from them intervening in the financial market. To payment processes that decide who we can transact with and how we can transact. We've gone from the world of cash and coins where you could pretty much decide who you wanted to transact with and how, to where these guys decide how you can speak the language of money and value. And again, this is all because what we want from our technologies are these instruction manuals, these systems. But in this world, if we look at it today, and that's the way that we view our technologies, and this is the way that we view our money, and we see what technology is here to do and do for us, you've got to ask the question about what purpose does Bitcoin serve? Like, how does it fit into this picture? If you talk about things like credit cards, payment providers, these payment apps and things like that, they're much more convenient and easier to use. They're quicker and much more familiar to people. If you're worried about preservation of your wealth, you have things like Robinhood, stocks, bonds, real estate, whatever. These nice, easy services with helplines and predictable things to follow you through to preserve your wealth, right? So, these things, they beat Bitcoin on all the important metrics if what you are looking for is a set of instructions to tell you what to do. And so if that is true, then what hope do we have of Bitcoin really catching on, of it being something that people use as sovereign peer-to-peer money rather than as a speculative instrument that you buy and then sell for more dollars to be injected back into the nice, easy-to-use financial system? Why would people either self-custody their own Bitcoin when they can just give it up to one of these familiar custodians to hold their own coins or an ETF? And the answer is, if we don't change people's attitudes about technology, if we don't awaken them to what technology is, then it probably doesn't change, because Bitcoin is born of a totally different philosophy of technology. Bitcoin is a tool and not a system. So what does that mean? Well, there's two ways you can look at technology. You can see technology as a system, and the system's view of what a technology is that technologies are prescriptive, passive things. They're like an instruction manual or a recipe. You submit to them and you follow the instructions, you let them lead you in exchange for a predictable desired outcome. But tools, the view of technology as a tool is a completely different philosophy. It says that good technologies are descriptive, intentional things. They're like a musical instrument or an artisan's hammer. There's something you've got to learn to wield as an extension of yourself and to put your personality injected in. You can follow the instructions to learn how to play, but you're not going to be a very good guitar player unless you learn to put your personality into it and inject your humanness into it. Good systems, or systems say the good technologies, are things that prioritize convenience, efficiency, and output volume. Whereas tools say that good technologies are things that give you autonomy and a utility to use it. They're open and they're able to be molded and shaped in ways that you can see. Systems want to create predictable outcomes from people pressing buttons. And tools say, well, our technology should require more of us than simply pressing buttons. There should be things that serve us, that are open for us to change and to mold, because the creators of these systems, these technologies, could never have envisioned all the ways that the people could use them, but if you're restricted to the options that they give you, how can they ever be used to solve these problems? So there's two views of technology here. One says that people are the problem, and the solution to our technological road is to remove people as much from the decision-making process as possible, to limit our options to those which our machines and the designers of those machines say that we can use. And the other philosophy says that people are the solution, that technology isn't just here to get us more stuff, to build more things. That technology is here to serve us, to protect us from enslavement by people who design tools and our technology, to give us ability and agency to shape the world that we live in and the society that we exist in. Because technologies are really just tools for self-expression. You know, we are what we do, and our technologies determine what we are capable of doing. But who decides what these technologies let us do? Well, if what you are after is a set of instruction manuals or a recipe, it's a small amount of technocrats and politicians that we increasingly become slaves of in our pursuit of more and more stuff, or possessing more and having more power. You know, we've forgotten the idea that our technology should demand more of us than simply blindly following someone else's instructions. That there is a value in learning to master them and learning to inject your personality and your individuality into owning the tools that you use in a day-to-day life to meet your basic needs. And if we don't take ownership of that, then we become vassals of the people that provide us those instruction manuals. You know, in the context of Bitcoin, you've got to learn how to self-custody your own Bitcoin. No one can do that for you. That Bitcoin can be used in a way which serves your individual needs and your particular preferences and values. And if you don't understand what those are, you don't explore that and learn that, well, someone else will do the work for you, and they will decide your financial future. So, you know, systems, automation, recipes, instruction manuals, they're not all bad things, right? You know, it's okay to have a robot clean your floor. There's generally one best way to get from A to B, right? But when, in the name of convenience, you give away to technology the ability to decide what goes in your food, who you can communicate with and how you can speak the language of value, transaction, and money, then we create a world where technology fundamentally disempowers us, right? Where these technologies reduce us from actors, people able to solve their own problems and solutions and control of our lives, to mere passive consumers. And, you know, the financial system that we have is broken precisely because it is a system. It's born of the same view of technology, that people are the problem, and the way to have a good system of money is to remove as much choice as possible, to limit it to the people who design the system and what they say we can and we cannot do. And it's no surprise that this is what our system is, because it's what's familiar to people, it's what they know, it's what they demand. And Bitcoin is not just a limited fixed supply type of money. One of the most important things about Bitcoin is it says, fuck that. It says that, you know, that money is such an important part, an integral part of our day-to-day lives, of how we interact with other people, that it should be something which is open for anyone to tinker with, to change, to adjust and shift in ways that we're with each other. We're not going to solve our financial problems by limiting that to people with licenses and permission, but by opening it to the creativity of the whole world of people to cooperate and come up with their own solutions to their own problems. So Bitcoin is a terrible system, but it is a great tool. It's not very good at giving you instructions or telling you what to do, But it's great in that it's open, that anyone can tinker with it and they can shape it and they can adjust it in a way that suits them. And you won't beat the financial system by trying to be more like a system, by trying to be convenient and user-friendly and things like that, by abstracting away what money is from people, by limiting their options to those that are provided by a small amount of people with the permission to give you their options. It comes from realizing that it's the people that are the problem of our financial system. It is us. It's that we think we know there's problems, we can see the problems, we know the answers, but we feel we don't have the permission or the ability to change them. We feel that unless we have permission from government or we're limited to the options given to us in these things, if we don't follow those, then there's nothing that we can do. And so the whole idea of Bitcoin is to change that, to shape that. And so, when you outsource the things that are as fundamental to inter-day communication and the way that we interact with other people as money, then those people decide who you are and they decide your future. And Bitcoin is a confusing thing. It's difficult. It's hard to understand. It requires you to act, to invest yourself, to learn. But it's not an easy set of instruction manuals. But the beauty of Bitcoin is just that, is that it is a tool, like a guitar or an artisan's hammer. It's beautiful and it's powerful precisely because it is not an instruction manual. It allows you to invest yourself in it, to shape it in a way that suits you. It's something that you can channel and you can express yourself through and be a vehicle to say what you want to say without anyone being able to control that. And that's a difficult thing to get your head around. That's a different philosophy of technology, something that's foreign and alien to us. But it's also something that's far, far too important for you and for the world to be left to someone else's instruction manual. Thank you. Yeah.
I don't see mine back there. Thank you, Rigel. Another good applause. It was good. It was good. Thank you so much. I don't need this. You can take it backstage.